Where to go on holiday is always a big decision for the family. Mum and dad have got to be happy, but the kids have got to be happy too. Where on earth do you go to give everybody the break that they really deserve? Well, I've come down to Angler's Paradise in Devon just to find out exactly what's on offer.
Angler's Paradise is a family-run business. We've been here for nearly 30 years now. It's a place where people can get away, forget about it all, and a beautiful part of the countryside in Devon and also right on the border of Cornwall. The good thing about Angler's Paradise is exclusive to the residents only. So there's 12 lakes in total that are only for people staying here. You've got the beginner's carp lake, the pixie lake, all the way up to the main carp lake, the cracking carp lake. So you've got something for the beginner, something for the intermediate and something professional. Something for everyone basically. It appeals to everyone. You've obviously got Angler's Paradise, so it is for fishermen. You've also got for the nature lovers, for people just wanting to get away and just want to relax. We're not only a fishing holiday, we're a family holiday, we're a countryside holiday, and we're in a beautiful part of the country. We want families to enjoy a holiday like we would want to enjoy it. You've got the swimming pool, you've got the play area, you've got the games room, and you've got so many days out that you'd need 2 weeks at least to fit it all in. All the accommodation is self-catering. It's luxury self-catering. The only thing that you need to bring is your towels. We provide the bedding. Even though it is self-catering, we do offer some food nights in the week. People book sometimes when they arrive because they don't want to miss out on the villa they get, and we always advise to do this because if you've got a favourite villa, then snap it up because already next year we've got nearly 140 weeks booked, which speaks for itself. We've got customers that have been coming for 28 years every single year on the trot, so we must be doing something right.
Well, basically we've come in here for 28 years, almost when Ziggy just started, about a year or 18 months after he started.
We've been coming here now for 20 years, regularly every summer, and occasionally we will come down maybe for a weekend or the odd week during the rest of the year as well.
You've got so many lakes here, and like even if you just want to dabble for half an hour, you're going to catch something. But then if you want to catch some really big fish, then you can do that as well.
We've been here 11 years running now. I think it's the fishing mainly, and we love the place.
It's the 3rd year now that we've been coming here. It's just better than any other place. It's just got that much options that you can have. It's just better than anywhere else I've been.
We like to encourage all our guests to have a bit of fun. So we've got the Fish of the Week competition and the Species Challenge. It's not all about size. If they catch a fish, they're proud of it, there's a story behind it, it's a personal best, then we encourage them, enter it for Fish of the Week. It's a bit of fun. Then you've got the Species Challenge, which is in the name, catches many of the different species we have. The winner not only gets a bottle of wine or J2O if you're under 18, of course, you also get prizes, bait, and you get a special presentation on Friday night. It's the saddest night of the week because obviously the next day everyone goes home. But it's also the happiest night of the week because they get to celebrate their personal best, their big catches, and share their stories with all the other customers. And it's a wonderful night to see everyone so happy.
Whether you're a novice or an expert, a junior or a senior, there will be something down here that will suit your preferred choice of angling and also your skill level. Now, if you're a float angler, the float fishing lake is great. The kids, well, they love to get on the Magic and the Pixie, and if carp are your target, there's 3 or 4 different lakes that are specifically dedicated to them. The beginner's carp lake is a perfect place to go and start catching a few carp, and they run up to sort of low mid doubles there. The easy access lake, well, that is just fantastic for getting plenty of runs, whether you're after carp or catfish. And elsewhere around the pond, you've got the Octopussy Lake that has got catfish and also carp in. If you fancy go for something slightly more exotic, you've got the Orf Lake and you've also got the Koi Lake as well. And that gives you the chance of catching some very, very pretty creatures. The creator of the complex, Drury-Gregorek, is a highly skilled angler and is holder to a number of world records himself. Now, his bar contains some incredible memorabilia and my kids were in awe of this real-life trophy hunter.
your family is with you, or your loved one is with you, it's more likely to be successful. Angler's Paradise started in May '85. I was selling insurance, so I was lucky to be able to continue as the area manager and sort of moved all over Devon and Cornwall. After a while, I got fed up of doing that. It's good, but nobody wakes up, goody goody, Ziggy's going to come and see me and sell me a policy. And I was fed up of people using rude words. I wanted to find another job. Nobody would give me a job. So I thought, right, what the hell? Set up. And that's how Angler's Paradise started. And we started off with one lake. That was the main carp lake. Because when I came in, there was no water, no fish, it was overgrown forest. And the bar was only a quarter of what it is now. We had 5 villas. And I remember the first thing, as soon as people came, what do you do? None of us knew anything about holiday business. I thought, right, the best thing to do is treat people the way I'd like to be treated myself if I went on holiday. So we're hospitable. How do you do? Welcome here. This is what we've got. And the first villa, we hadn't finished because somebody booked a week earlier and they're still putting up decorations and pictures, etc., etc. What do I do? So I took them in the bar, had a carafe of wine. I said, I'll tell you what, I make my own wine. I'll give you a glass while we discuss everything, tell you what's happening, etc., etc. Roast came around the corner, it's all right. They say, oh, this wine is wonderful, etc. And I thought, hey, they love that. So from then on, it actually says somewhere in the brochure, you cannot have your key unless you have a drink with Ziggy. It's a new thing that started. People love it. Each villa gets a free bottle because I enjoy making my own wine. It's fruits to the forest, fruits of the hedgerow. We have our own grapes. We've planted about 100 apple trees and elderberries, blackberries. I interacted with the customers and I quickly realized you're going back in the 80s and even now, but now it's sort of mellowing out a bit. Carp became the in thing. Everybody wanted carp. However, not everybody. Your average angler wanted to catch. Your average angler, maybe on holiday, want to have a nice villa, nice accommodation, and maybe something to catch. So immediately, very quickly, we did some more lakes. We did the float lake. So if somebody wants carp, you've got the main carp lake, then the float lake. Then we had Magic Lake and Pixie Lake. We added on a lake, 1 or 2 lakes every year. So from word go, we went for hospitality, looking after, and fishing. That's our mainstay. That's what people are, how shall I say, come here mainly. But we now get people coming here, don't fish at all. Because the accommodation is superb. You've got fantastic views of Dartmoor. We've got people here this week. They've been coming since 86, etc. And they still come every year, 2 weeks. They make friends. People make friends here. People get together. This is their annual pilgrimage. It's their escapism. And it's sort of, the world out there sometimes can be rather tough. When you go on holiday, you just want to relax, enjoy, feel at peace. And here we got your nature, you've got the Ziggy wine, you've got the famous African safari bar, all the things that make life more pleasurable.
Well, there we go. We've just seen, whether you fish or not, that there's plenty to do down here at Angler's Paradise. But don't just take our word for it. This is what some of the customers think.
I have definitely enjoyed my time here. It's been an experience. It's not something that I would usually do, but I've actually really liked it.
I think it's just the atmosphere. Everyone's dead nice. You get to know everyone in the bar. The variety of lakes, you know, you can be carping one day and then you might want to dabble for a bit of tench or a few wharf the next day. So it's a bit of everything, really.
The greeting is such a fantastic greeting from Zig and his wife Rose. It's a fantastic place, the scenery, the fishing, and all through the years the fishing has just got better and better.
My favourite lake's the beginner's carp lake, just because you'll catch something every time you go there and they'll always give you a good fight. They're not just stuff you can pick up without fight, you've always got a lesson about.
What I like about being here is the fact that it's really relaxed. I've managed to learn a lot more about what Tom likes to do, and I've managed to catch a bigger fish than him, which has been brilliant, and a lot more fish than him, in fact, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, she's caught more than me, but you know, obviously she won't let me lay that down, but you know, I'm trying to catch a couple more before we go.
As we come so often, as soon as we're here, it's just home from home. We unpack and that's it.
I would definitely come back here. In fact, I think as soon as we get back, we're booking to come back with Tom's dad next year. So that should be brilliant.
Angler's Paradise, it's sort of a way of life. When you're young, you're at university, at school, you're continually meeting people, having friends. As you get older, your circle diminishes. This allows me to meet good people, make friends outside the normal circle that have interest, and that is a bonus.
We're the biggest of our type in Europe. We have something for everyone, and this really comes from the heart. We're trying to create something here that's something for families, something for fishermen, and something for just people that want to get away and enjoy it all. And we hope that when you come to Angler's Paradise, that it's not going to be your last time, but it's going to be the first of many.
If, like me, you love your float fishing, this truly is paradise. There are so many lakes to have a go at and so many species. There's the orf, there's the tench, there's the koi, there's the carp. And the best thing to do is you want to catch them all, but just start off easy. So I am on the beginner's carp lake. It's, you know, I'm throwing my 6 to go. It really should be easy as long as you get it right. Just a few little basics which I'll show you. And the first one is to get some bait in. Never be in too much of a hurry to start fishing. I'd always suggest do a lap of the lake and look for fish. As any estate agent will tell you, location, location, location. It's the most important thing. You can't catch fish that aren't there. Luckily here, I think probably every peg has got plenty of fish in it. But I've seen some fish down here in the reeds. So the first thing I've done, I've thrown some corn in, and now I'm going to plumb the depth. The most important thing with float fishing, you must know the depth you're fishing. That food I'm throwing in, some will get eaten on the way down, but most of it's going to end up on the deck, and that's where I want my hook bait. And it amazes me, so many people don't take the trouble. It's only a couple of minutes just to plumb the depth. If you don't own one of these, pop in the shop and buy one. A simple little plummet. You've got the cork there, you thread your hook through the eye there, and then into the cork. And that will obviously sink my float, and I can now tell how deep it is. So if I swing it out a little bit further, I suspect that'll be too deep, and sure enough, my float's gone under. Now if I come back towards me, now I felt that touch the bottom, and if I wind down and lift, you can see there I'm a float length over depth. And if I come in a little bit more, there, that's just touched the bottom now. So all I need to do is just slide my float down, and I'll show you a clever little thing I've got here. Is I've got one of these which makes it very easy. This float adapter, I can just slide it down, and that now, I want to be about 2 inches over depth. So again, we're under there. I'll just come back gently. There, I've just felt that touch the bottom. I'm a couple of inches over depth, that's going to be perfect. Just take the plummet off, and that's it, I'm ready to start fishing. I doubt if there's a fish that swims at Angler's Paradise or anywhere come to that doesn't love a golden grain. Simple piece of sweet corn. Tench, carp, bream, roach, rudd, they absolutely love it. Just nick it in. There's so many different ways you can do it. There's hardly a wrong way, but I'm just going to sit with that slightly proud because I'm expecting a quick bite. Fish absolutely love the taste, the colour, the smell. It's highly visual, the yellow. So let's put it to the test. You can see how close in I am, and I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but there's a little bomb gone off between me and the float. You can see I'm even too far out because there's a fish feeding. You can see the cloud there, and although the sun's in and out today, I've got my Polaroids on because I can see under the water just there, and I can see fish feeding. My float's bobbing a bit, but I'm actually going to come in even closer because there's a fish down there I can see by the cloud of silt. And there we go, that was the bite I wanted. Fantastic sport. As I say, if you come here, no matter what you want to catch, just get yourself up and running, and you can test your baits, you know, just especially if you come here on holiday, you might not have fished for a while, and it's, you know, it's a nice little warm-up. But don't sit on one of the other lakes for a while when it's hard and you might be struggling for a bite. Get a few here, and then you can go on one of the other lakes and try and target something a bit more special. I love it when you see those boils under the surface like that. This really is a spectacular place. I'm looking across at Dartmoor, I'm playing a carp, the wildlife's fantastic. It just doesn't get much better than this. I often fish places where, you know, you're just fishing for one fish maybe in a week, but it does every angler good just to come and catch a few fish, get your string pulled. There we go. He's ready. And he's ours. Whew. Absolutely brilliant. Here's another quick little tip that I see people do. Carp welfare is everything. Obviously I've got an unhooking mat, I've got a landing net. Make sure your line's not tight now. I see people land a fish with the rod tip bent double, and that's when it's out the water and it's really going to put pressure on the mouth of the fish. So always make sure you've got a slack line and you're not putting any pressure on the fish. If necessary, just knock the bail arm off. And then put your hand over their eyes. That usually just calms them a bit. Tiny little barbless hook. That's going to come out easily. Some people don't trust barbless hooks, but they are fantastic. If you get them in your clothes, they come out, the undergrowth, they come out, and they're much kinder on the fish. Look at that, a little lean common, very pretty little fish. And again, on the right gear, great fun. Now I've caught one, I'll just quickly show you my setup. It couldn't be more simple. I've got a flat top waggler. I don't need to be too sensitive because of all the small fish in here. When that goes under, I want it to be a proper bite. Float adapter, and I've just got my 3 little BB to cock the float. I want them there because there's no casting here. I'm just lowering it under the rod tip. I'm not going to get any tangles like that. I don't want the corn bombing down. I want it to flutter down nicely, which get you a quick bite. So just one little dropper, and then I've got a size 14 barbless hook. That's all you need. 13-foot match rod, 4-pound line, nice little small reel, and the important thing is have your drag set properly because there's some proper lumps in here and you don't want to get bust. The best thing about fishing this close to the edge is when you hook one, there's only one way they're going, and that's away from you, and it's brilliant. And here's another little tip while I'm playing this fish. It might seem greedy, but I'm just going to put another handful of corn in, or 2 in fact, just to keep the next bite coming. But oh, it's great fun. And I was talking to somebody earlier, you know, this light tackle and the smaller fish, it's just as much, if not more fun than catching big fish with heavy tackle. It's absolutely brilliant. There we go. Lovely little common. Beginner's carp lake. Perfect way to start. Really enjoyed that. And I hope I've showed you. Just keep it simple, do the basics, get the feed right, plumb the depth, and it really does get easy. I've had a couple of fish here, and obviously when you're fishing this close in, it's easy to spook them, you're netting them, you're putting them back. So I'm just going to prime a couple of other spots in the edge. Just walk round 2 or 3 places, put a couple of little nuggets of ground bait, some corn in, and then if I want, I can go and have a go there. Don't you just love it when a plan works? I've primed 3 spots, I've just gone to have a look at them, and one of them, they are ripping the bottom up, and I've just got to have a go here. I've shallowed up, they are right in the edge. It's so cloudy down there, it looks like my dog's been in for a swim. There's lots of little fish as well. There's probably too many fish in the swim. You almost want one, but the good thing is with lots you get competition and they're less likely to inspect your bait. I don't need my Polaroids to see that. And you can see the little goldfish or golden rudd coming up to the surface, but they're not creating those clouds. And that's the little ones even hitting the float. This has got to go in a minute. It's got to go. If anything, I'm too far out. I'm just going to have a little lift. Look at that cloud. That's just from a couple of little nuggets of ground bait. Just shows the difference it can make. There we go. Oh, ah. Like I say, you have a plan. Ah, brilliant. Cool, considering he was in the edge, he wants to go out to the other side of the island now. Sometimes if they're running like that, you're better just to keep your rod low with side strain rather than high. But having said that, there's not much I can do with this lad. I think he's going on his holidays. So. Big mistake a lot of people make is not keeping enough bend in the rod. You've got to know your tackle and trust it. And a bend in the rod does 2 things. You're going to wear the fish out, and also I see people not enough bend, and that's when the barbless hook's going to fall out. Come on, mister. I'm only going to admire you and put you back. Come on. Mixture of the other fish in the swim and him fighting, it's the water looks filthy. Here he comes, head up. Just steer them towards the net. Don't lunge at them. Wait till they're well over it and then just gently lift the net. Brilliant. You can't beat that with a stick. What a great way to finish. I hope I've inspired you to visit Angler's Paradise, and I hope I've helped you to catch a few fish when you do come here. Get it right, keep it simple. Fish like this with queuing up on the end of your rod.
If you want to catch your first catfish, it makes sense to go to a water that's got plenty of them in there. A great lake to start is the one that I'm stood beside now, Octopussy. It's already produced one lovely catfish for me today and is a great place to start your catfishing. There's a big head of fish in there from £10 all the way through to £50. So your first catfish might be a small one or it might be an absolute monster. Another lake with a similar stock is the Easy Access Lake, and for those of you that want to sit it out for a real monster, just down the path here is the main carp lake, and that's actually got fish to over £60 in weight, so some real monsters. And off-site there's the day ticket lakes at both El Dorado and Nirvana, so lots and lots of options for you to bag your first cat. Well, here we have it, the Wells catfish. As you can see, it's totally different to any other fish that you're going to come across, and it's got some really unique features. Starting at the dangerous end, if you're a small fish swimming around in one of these lakes, we have got a big old mouth. I've popped a glove on and you'll see why when I pop its mouth open. We've got hundreds of backward facing, razor sharp teeth, and then behind that some big old crushing pads. So once a little fish gets that view, that's the last thing it's ever going to see. But how does it find the prey before it actually strikes? Well, it's got these long barbels that it can sense its prey, and as it closes in, it can even feel them. And as you can see how sensitive they are. As soon as I've touched those, the fish has started to move, and it uses those to track its prey and to home in when it gets close. Now, if we can get him to stay still for a minute, you'll see this tiny, tiny little eye. And they don't actually use their eyesight that much. They don't need to, because their other senses are so tuned in. If we move back, you can see we've got a massive area of fin running from about a third of the way down the body all the way back to the tail. And that means that it's got a massive turn of speed. And in fact, over short distances, it's probably one of the fastest fish that we've got in the freshwater in the UK. That gives it amazing power to surge forward and grab its prey. You can see the only area that's soft is here where the internal organs are. Everything else is just muscle, and that means that when you put a hook into one of these things, it goes like absolutely nothing else that you're going to hook. Now, as you can see, being a totally different shape, they can be a little bit awkward as well. So what we're going to do now is, if you actually catch one of these things, you're going to want a picture. So let's have a look at the best way to get your trophy shot to take home with you when you catch your first catfish. Well, as we can see, they're big old fish and they're pretty hard to pick up. So let me show you my way of handling them. I find that the easiest way is just to leave them lying on a large unhooking mat, such as the one that we've got here. And I think this actually gives a bit of an idea of the size of mat that you'll need. This will be a fish of probably around 18 pounds. Now, some of the lakes have got fish over 60, so you need a nice big mat. And all you need to do is just kneel by the mat, pick the tail up, and get your photographer in front of the fish to shoot along the length of the body, and you can just hold the tail like that. I see lots of people try and pick them up and lift them off the floor. They're big, they're slimy, you're going to get your top covered in all the slime and all the rest of it. It's not going to be a nice experience for you or potentially for the fish. So go for this shot, like I say, along the length. It really makes them look really good. Make sure you shoot nice and low and you'll get a photo that you'll be happy with. Well, when you've got your photo of your catfish, it's really important that you carefully return it. As you can see, at all times it stayed within the sling, and this makes it really easy to carry back. Check that your zips are done up, so there's no chance of it falling out. And most of the swims here at Anglers Paradise are pretty easy for you to get down to return fish safely. So what we'll do, we'll undo the zip in the sling at the head end of the fish, and then that just allows us just to hold it out, and we'll just support the fish there until the fish is ready to swim away. Now, catfish do tend to revive quite quickly, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue, and just support its body until it's ready to swim away. Whatever species of fish you're targeting, it pays to get the location spot on, and fishing for catfish is no exception. Now, with catfish, they both hunt live prey and they scavenge, and we need to think about that when we're thinking about the spots that we're going to fish. If we have a look at the swim, we've got overhanging trees here, and that also on the end of the island causes a natural pinch point. This is a perfect place for catfish to sit up and wait for prey to pass, or to creep out and pick up anything that's on the bottom. So that's a great feature in its own right. Just behind me here, we've got some weed cover, and small fish in particular will use that to their advantage, and they'll sit in there out of the way of the catfish, and the catfish will know that, and they'll sit just off of these areas. So the edge of weed beds, islands, undercut banks, reed cover, anywhere where there's somewhere where the catfish can tuck itself away using that mottled camouflage markings to good effect, ready to come out and pounce on its prey, is a great place to start. When you're fishing for a catfish, there's every chance you're fishing for the biggest fish you're ever going to catch in your life, so it's really important that you've got the gear to deal with them. The great news is you've probably already got most of the tackle that you're going to need, and I'll start by showing you what I prefer to use. Firstly, you need a good strong rod that's going to be able to cope with the powerful lunges of these fish. I've got 12-foot 3.5 pound test curve models here, which I find have got plenty of power for casting out big baits and dealing with hard fighting fish. The reel is important too. I've gone for a 12,000 size big pit model. That takes plenty of heavy line. It's got a free spool facility, which means that when the catfish takes the bait, it's not going to pull the rod potentially into the lake, which could happen. And also, it's very, very powerful. A small reel that you might use for float or feeder fishing would simply get ripped to pieces by these big fish. So it's important that you've got something that can cope with it. Mainline is really, really important, and I would never use less than 15 pounds when I'm fishing for catfish. In fact, in most cases, I often use 18 or even 20. You're only going to hook one or two of these big fish realistically, so make it count and use the tackle that's actually going to be able to land them. Now, once the rods are out when you're catfishing, it's not the most active of methods. So it's nice to be able to sit back, watch what's going on and relax. And part of that involves using bite alarms. So I've got a set of alarms here, and that means that I can keep my eye on the water, see what's going on, and also catfish feed quite a lot of the time at night. So that means that if I've got a bed chair, I can relax during the night, and if I do get a bite, I'll know all about it. Now, in front of the bite alarms there, we've got some bobbins, and they help to amplify the bite indication, so any movement on the line obviously transmits. Now, you might notice that I'm actually using the bobbins in front of the alarms. Now, the reason for that is when I'm fishing baits such as worms, off the bottom, there'll be small fish pulling at the bait, and otherwise I get a lot of false indications. By setting the bobbin in that way, it actually means that little fish can be pulling at the bait, and I'll only get a clear indication when a big catfish comes along and eats it. So that's a really, really important little edge. So that's the key hardware that we're using. We've talked a little bit about fish care. We've looked at having a big unhooking mat, which is important, a big sling to weigh and return the fish, and of course a big landing net. I'm using one that's 46 inches, and that should be able to handle any catfish that swims in these lakes. And the last thing that I like to carry as well is a glove. The reason that I do that is when you've got a catfish on the unhooking mat, obviously they're big, they're heavy, and they're quite hard to manoeuvre. By wearing a glove, it allows me to grip them firmly by the bottom jaw and easily and safely move them around. Whatever you do though, don't go putting an ungloved hand near that mouth, because with those teeth and crushing pads, they'll do some serious damage. Going to show you the rigs that I like to use for catfish, and the great news is that they're dead simple. Both rigs that I use are based around a simple running ledger setup. This has just got a plastic ring, and that allows the lead to slide on the line. I'll show you why in a minute. We've got a buffer bead and then a quick change swivel, which means that we can change hook links nice and easy. Catfish feed on the bottom and off the bottom, so I'm going to start with the rig that I use for catching them on the bottom, and that's a length of coated braid, simple knotless knot, size 1 hook, couple dirty great big 21mm halibut pellets, and a bright pink pop-up on the top, and that just sits balanced on the bottom and is fished over a bed of pellets, ground bait, boilies, anything nice and fishy that will attract these scavenging fish. There are times, however, when they're feeding off the bottom, and at that time I use a 30-pound nylon hook link, again knotless knot, nice big hook, and that's absolutely covered in worms. Now obviously they send out lots of scent, lots of attraction, lots of movement, everything that catfish love. On top of that I've got a little rattle and also a buoyant ball, and that means that the rig sits up off the bottom, and by letting out more line I can actually try different depths within the water column and find where the catfish are feeding, and it's worth adjusting it to see exactly where the cats are on the particular day that you're fishing. Now these rigs I've used all over the complex here at Anglers Paradise, and they've caught me hundreds of catfish. Give them a go and you shouldn't go too far wrong. Well, bright sunshine doesn't seem to be putting these catfish off. Just had a take on a big bunch of worms, fish just under the surface. The fish is up on the top there, powering around. And for those of you that wonder why I use heavy gear for catfish, you can see these things pull like absolutely nothing on earth. Those of you that use the back wind when you're playing fish, you'd be better off using the drag for catfish, because when they make powerful runs you simply can't keep up with them, so you're much better off checking that your clutch is well set before you start. This one was just using the shade of the marginal cover there, and I've just popped a rig in under there, typical type of place where a catfish should be hiding away in the day. I've had a look at this fish already when it came up and slapped its tail on the top there, and I'd say it's a good double figure fish, and if you see the bend in this powerful rod, it just gives you some idea of why you need this heavy gear. If you amplified this by 5 times and you'd hooked one of the really big ones that are available in some of the lakes on this complex, obviously if you're going to hook the fish of a lifetime, it's important that you've got the gear to land it. Now as you can see, they're very long fish as well, so you need to make sure that you've got a net that can cope, and he's very kindly swam in, which helps no end. Just goes to show you don't need to necessarily be out there all night. Bright sunny day, lovely weather to be out here, and a catfish in the net. Care of these big, powerful fish is really, really important. When they're on the bank, they're our responsibility, so it pays to make sure you're prepared before you lift them out of the water. Got a large, wet unhooking mat already in place, and I've moved that into the area that we're fishing, so I'm not having to carry the fish. Now, catfish are obviously heavy, and you need to think about that before you try and lift them. So, best thing that you can do is, if there's two of you, obviously work together. If not, just obviously be a little bit careful. So I've collapsed the landing net there, because otherwise you're going to put a lot of strain on the spreader block and the handle. So just collapse the net, roll it down. Obviously make sure that you can freely take line off your reel, or if you're using a quick change rig, you can just simply unclip it. Wrap the net down, spread the load, and then you can just easily carry it across onto a large, wet unhooking mat. Now we'll just undo this one. We can see the hook there. These barbless hooks come out nice and easy. What I like to do then, for the fish's safety and my own, once I've got it unhooked, whether I'm fishing for catfish or anything else, is to put the rig well out of the way, because otherwise you could kneel down, get a hook in you, it could end up back in the net. So it makes it a lot easier to do it in that way. What we'll do, if we just get him out the net, and you can see why two people would make lighter work of this, because even fish of this size, they're very, very powerful, and when they want to go, they're just all muscle and they're quite hard to hold in place. So a large unhooking mat is definitely required. Once you've got the fish, obviously if there's two of you, you can simply slide it into a sling and weigh it. Always remember to zero it first, obviously, so you're getting a true weight, and then that can just be used to carry it back across to release it. So like I say, these big powerful fish, when they're on the bank, have to treat them with utmost respect.
Right, I'd like to show you a devastating method now for fishing lakes like that, and that is using this, the PVA sausage stick. Absolutely superb when there's lots of fish in the water like there is here, and it's a very quick and easy method. However, what's important is what's in it. So I'm just going to make the bait up now. I start off with a base of straightforward pellets, and then what I'd like to do is I'd like to get some boilies in. Take a load of boilies, pop them into the crusher, and then give them a good crushing down. I like to do this 2 or 3 times with reasonable handfuls, but actually vary the amount of crush. So the more times you twist it, the more powdery it becomes. So we'll give this one a lot. So this is going down almost to a fine powder, like so. We'll do other bits where we'll just give them 1 or 2 twists. And what that does is that we'll leave a few lumpy bits in there, so when the fish are rooting around, they've got something to go for. I also like to get some bright pink pop-ups. So we give that a really good twist, because we only want tiny little bits going in there. Pop that in, and then give it a nice shake. What I then like to do is add a liquid flavour. This is a krill flavour, so it's quite a fishy flavour. It's water soluble, and that means it sends off a big liquid message. So a good helping of that. If you prefer a strawberry flavour, put that in. If you prefer a fishy flavour, put that in. Really, the flavour is your choice. Then give it a really nice big shake round, because what I'm trying to do is get that liquid absorbed by all those pellets in there. So we'll pop that open, have a look, and there will be a few little lumpy bits in there, just where the liquid has stuck bigger bits together. Just get the hand in, give it a bit of a mush round, and that now is looking lovely. So that's our starter for 10 on the bait. What we then do is we need this. This is PVA mesh. Now, it comes on a little tube to make it very easy to load. knot at the one end, pull it onto the funnel, and then take a small handful and slide it in to the pipe on the inside. Putting your finger or thumb or hand over the end, then take the plunger, push it down, and that will then allow you to make the sausage, which you then push out of the end, like so. Take the plunger back out again, pop that down, and then, this is important now, it's got to be tight. You've got to keep this very, very tight. Pinch down, making sure there's no pieces wandering back up, and twist a few times. Pull a bit more off, and then make a loop, and this is very important. Pull one end back down, because that's the bit that will keep it tight. Pinch it with the fingers, pull back, and then nip it off. And what we've got there is an absolutely perfect little food message. It's a food parcel that fish can eat, they can see, they can smell, and we just nip that onto the hook before we cast out, and that is almost guaranteed to catch a fish. Just want to talk to you now about rigs, and a very, very simple and straightforward rig which is perfect for an awful lot of the fishing on here, particularly after carp. And it's a straightforward, supple hook link. This is Reflex Camo, 15-pound breaking strain. What I'm going to do is pull off about a foot of that, snip it off, and then in one end tie an overhand loop. So what we do, make a loop, twist it over, baiting needle through, and then pull it back. And your loop wants to be about 1 centimetre long. Snip off the loose. Then, taking a hook, and remember it's a barbless hook rule here. I like a size 6 hook, which you might think is quite a big hook, but with a single boilie it's absolutely perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the hook, holding it at the bend, we're going to put the material through the eye from behind, so not from the point side, from the other side. Pull it through, almost all the way down to the knot, and then holding the shank of the hook, we're going to tie what's called a knotless knot. So wrap it back around the shank 6 times, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm just going to push it back through the eye of the hook from behind so it comes out the front from the same side. And that is a very easy way of just tying a hook on. That's a knotless knot. At the other end, we simply more or less repeat the process without the hook. So we double it over, and then we tie a loop knot, but this time it's a figure of 8 loop. So we go out the back, bait a needle through, and pull it through from the back rather than the front. That is then ready to attach to a swivel. Bait wise, we'll use a boilie, we'll use a piece of luncheon meat, we can use corn, we can use whatever we want, but that is a brilliant rig for fishing down here at Angler's Paradise. Now when you've caught a fish, it's nice to take a photograph of it just to have that memory recorded properly. But as anglers, we love our fish, and it's very, very important that we look after them when we've got them on the bank. In front of me, you'll see I've got an unhooking mat. This is a padded mattress that sits on the floor, and it makes sure that when we get the fish out of the water, it's not going to bounce around on hard stuff. It's got sides on it too, which is really good to stop the fish slipping around. And please remember, whatever you do, whenever you're fishing, bring an unhooking mat with you. You can't put fish down on hard grounds. If you fish one of the pagodas, they've got concrete, fish bouncing around on that will damage themselves. And even on grass, it's not particularly good for the fish. So look after the fish, put them down on a mat like this. In the landing net over there, I've got quite a nice carp I've just caught. So what I'm going to do is pop it out. We'll have a look at the best way to take a nice photograph and keep the carp nice and safe. So there she is, she's on the mat, nice and safe. And one thing to think about is if it bounces around a lot, don't panic, keep calm. Just put your hand over its eye. You're not pressing down, you're making sure you don't touch its eye, but literally just put your hand over its eye. That will calm it down a little bit, stop it jumping. Start with the fish with its back to you. 2 fingers out on either side, and slide your hand all the way under the front of the fish and the back of the fish, never under its tummy. and you're putting those 2 fingers around either side of the anal fin. 2 fingers one either side of the pectoral fin at the front. Never ever stand up with it, because if you do, there's a risk you might drop it. So you'll see I've got 2 fingers one either side of the pectoral fin at the front, 2 fingers one either side of the anal fin at the back, and then I can simply lift it up, hold it out, and that way I'll get a brilliant photograph.
One lake that attracts a lot of attention here at Anglers Paradise is the koi lake. It gives you the rare opportunity to fish for koi carp of all sizes and colours. One of my favourite methods here is simple freelining on the surface. A rod, reel, line, hook, and in this case, a little pop-up boilie. I've already put some dog biscuits in, the carp are taken. Let's get a bait in the water and see if we can catch one. You can probably see already there's a lot of movement in the swim. The more bait we put in, the more little rudd and koi come up to the surface, and of course all that movement and sound attracts the bigger koi into the swim. Hopefully some bigger fish will soon drift in and we can target them individually just by dropping a hook bait right on their nose. Bait wise, my approach on the koi lake is dead simple. Dog biscuits and plenty of them. They flog them up in the shop on site here. Don't just bring down a couple of handfuls, bring plenty with you. It's a hungry lake full of fish. Throw plenty in, you get the little fish up and the big ones won't be far behind. Another top tip that I can give you, they're quite spooky fish, so don't just bait one spot. I've baited another little spot a little bit further down. We'll sneak down there and see if there's any feeding fish. Well, that one wasn't the biggest fish that was feeding, but after a frustrating couple of minutes trying to get one to actually take the hook bait, it was nice to actually see a mouth come up and accept our hook bait. It's using a white hook bait, and sometimes by using something that just stands out a little bit, it can just mean that you get a quicker bite, especially when you've got lots of feed in the swim. Just gonna have to shuffle back and quickly grab the neck, 'cause I've got sidetracked by watching these fish down the margin. Just make sure he doesn't get in these pads first. You need quite a strong tackle for dealing with these fish. They might not be as big as some of the other fish on the complex, but all the way around this lake there's lots going on in the margin, lots of features, and if you don't fish heavy you can get shown up even by relatively small fish. Oh. Well, it might not be a monster, but that is an absolutely stunning koi. Let's get it out and have a look. Well, it might not be the biggest carp I've ever caught, but I don't think I've caught many that are much prettier than this. Absolutely gorgeous fish. Bright orange, big black blotches all over it. They really are the most spectacular creatures. And of course, because they are bright, everyone chucks the bait straight at them. So when you do trip one of these fish up, you've really, really earned it. Absolutely beautiful.
One of the many great things about Anglers Paradise is you truly are spoilt for choice. There are so many lakes, it's absolutely amazing. But I fancy adding a bit of colour to my fishing, so I'm going to try and catch a golden orf. I'm here on the Specimen Orf and Tench Lake. The tench are beautiful, but I'm going to fish for the orf up in the water. It really is a lovely lake. It's about an acre in size with an island in the middle. There's reeds all the way around the margins, there's lily pads, but orf are quite visual. Obviously they're bright orange, there's also the blue ones in here, and I'm going to fish up in the water and see if I can snag one. Right, here's the plan. Add a bit of colour to our lives, see if we can catch some of these off. Now my theory is catch one, then worry about catching a bigger one. So I'm just starting off on maggots. And you might have noticed a lot of people make the mistake, they cast then fire the maggots. Fire the maggots, they're sinking, your one lands, they see it, you get a bite like that. There we go. Oh, I was expecting an orange one, I think I've got a blue one. Yeah, look at that, little baby blue orf. Isn't that sweet? That is lovely, especially with the sun shining on it. Right, try and get an orange one next. So again, it's all about the sequence. I'm going to put a maggot on, so I'm ready to go. Then I'll fire some out, and as they're sinking and the fish are homing in on them, I'll cast, and mine will be just falling through the water with them while the fish are all there looking for them. If I cast first, my maggot's going to be down here and the fish are up going for the ones I'm catapulting. And the great thing about this lake, you can catapult just about anywhere and the fish will come to it. So those fish are on that. That sun's lovely. Now don't be patient. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's come off. I wasn't going to wait any longer than that. I'll just show you quickly. I've got a pellet waggler. It looks a bit heavy for maggots, but it's because I think for the big ones I'm going to need to go over to pellets. But that's how deep I'm fishing, about 18 inches. So as that maggot falls through the water, when it gets to there, give it a couple of seconds and recast, because it's that enticement of falling through the water that gets you the bite. So don't sit there waiting for ages. You've got to make it happen. So maggot on, ready to go. And then I'll just quickly fire another few out. You want them competing. And then as they're sinking, all the fish looking for them, this one is going to land in the middle of them. I say the middle, I'm going to overcast a fraction and just come back on them, everything tight. And there's the bite, and there we go. Oh, come off again. I nearly looked good there, didn't I? And the great thing with this is that I'm pulling the fish closer and closer to me. I'm going to put a maggot on, so I'm ready to go. Then I'll fire some out, and as they're sinking and the fish are homing in on them, I'll cast, and mine will be just falling through the water with them while the fish are all there looking for them. If I cast first, my maggot's going to be down here and the fish are up going for the ones I'm catapulting. And the great thing about this lake, you can catapult just about anywhere and the fish will come to it. So those fish are on that. That sun's lovely. Now don't be patient. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's come off. I wasn't going to wait any longer than that. I'll just show you quickly. I've got a pellet waggler. It looks a bit heavy for maggots, but it's because I think for the big ones I'm going to need to go over to pellets. But that's how deep I'm fishing, about 18 inches. So as that maggot falls through the water, when it gets to there, give it a couple of seconds and recast, because it's that enticement of falling through the water that gets you the bite. So don't sit there waiting for ages. You've got to make it happen. So maggot on, ready to go. And then I'll just quickly fire another few out. You want them competing. And then as they're sinking, all the fish looking for them, this one is going to land in the middle of them. I say the middle, I'm going to overcast a fraction and just come back on them, everything tight. I think we've got an orange one this time. Yeah, very pretty. Lively little lad. Beautiful colours with the sun on it. Little baby golden orth. There's golden rudd in here as well, but that's a golden orth. That lovely little dark patch on his head. Looks like a tattoo. Just look at the markings around the eyes. Really pretty little fish. And again, you know, if you bring your kids here, these are fish to start with. Yeah, it's catching fish, getting bites. It's not all about the big ones. That was great fun catching those little ones. I'm glad you saw them. My granddaughter would be happy catching those all day. But I'd like to show you one of the bigger orth that live in here. So I've now got some pellets, 6mm hard pellets. And I'm just going to ping a few of these in. The little ones will go for them, but hopefully it'll attract a bigger one. Now the key is just keep pinging the pellets. It might take an hour before the big ones show up, but keep the faith. And the great thing is for your confidence, when they do show up, you'll see them. Just keep pinging them. Float's bobbing around like a good one, but that's just those little ones. Just ignore that. When you get the right bite, you'll know. The line will tighten, the rod tip will even tighten. Just keep the bait going in. It's lovely because it's a really proactive way of fishing as well. You're not just sitting there. I just saw a bigger fish then. Go on. Oh, yes, fish on. Get in. Check this out for adding a bit of colour to your fishing. You normally associate these with garden centres. There's very few places you can fish for golden orth like this. And the pellet waggler might seem not a very traditional method for them, not if there is one, but look at that. Spraying pellets for about half an hour, and I saw this in the swim a couple of times. He was being really, really finicky. He was just grabbing a pellet and disappearing. But that, oh, amazing fish. Only at Angler's Paradise.
Thank you for watching. We thoroughly enjoyed making it. We're very proud of what we achieved. The name was chosen by my lovely wife, Rose. I thought, what do we call it? And she said, Angler's Paradise. And with the help of the family, staff and everybody, we've endeavoured to make it so. And I know we've still got customers that have been with us since the inception of '85. Thank you, my friends. I look forward to welcoming you. See you soon.